At 0347 hours, somewhere in the Persian Gulf. The water is black, the air is thick with humidity and the faint smell of jet fuel, and 97,000 tons of American steel is cutting through the darkness at 30 knots. USS Abraham Lincoln, CVN-72, home to 5,000 sailors and 90 aircraft, the most concentrated expression of military power ever built by human hands. Then the radar operators see it. Not one contact, not two. 7 fast-moving surface contacts, bearing 027, range 34 nautical miles, closing at 42 knots. Behind them, 2 more signatures, larger, slower. And above it all, 3 unidentified aerial contacts climbing out of Bandar Abbas at 1,200 feet, running dark, no transponders. The Combat Direction Center lights up like a Christmas tree. The Tayo, Tactical Action Officer, has 11 seconds to classify the threat before the inner defensive ring is breached. 11 seconds to decide whether this is a provocation, a probe, or an attack. The closest fast boat is now 28 nautical miles out. At 42 knots, that's 40 minutes to weapons range. Except these aren't ordinary fast boats. According to signals intelligence picked up 90 minutes earlier at NSA Bahrain, at least 3 of those vessels are carrying C-704 anti-ship missiles, subsonic, sea-skimming, and deadly accurate at 35 kilometers. 1 hits. That's sailors. That's aircraft. That's a crisis that reshapes the Middle East overnight. The skipper gets the call at 0349. 2 words from the TAO. Captain. Bridge. Tehran calculated this perfectly. Or so they thought. Saying the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy, the IRGCN, had been wargaming this scenario for 3 years. Not a full naval engagement. Not a suicide mission. Something smarter. Something that exploited exactly one vulnerability in American carrier operations. The window between 0300 and 0500, when crew rotations overlap, when the carrier's defensive posture is technically at its lowest staffing level, and when satellite coverage from 2 specific American reconnaissance birds goes dark for a combined 22-minute window over the northern Gulf. 22 minutes. That's the Iranian bet. Their plan was elegant in a brutal sort of way. 7 PACAP-class fast attack craft, each one a 28-ton, 50-knot knife, would close from the northwest in a spread formation, forcing the carrier's close-in defense systems to track multiple simultaneous inbound contacts. The CIWS, the phalanx guns, can engage multiple targets, but the IRGCN planners knew there's a saturation threshold. Flood the zone, split the attention, create even one opening in that defensive umbrella, and the 2 Cena-class patrol boats holding back at 40 kilometers fire their C-704s at a stationary target the size of 4 football fields. You don't have to sink a carrier to win. You just have to hit it once. Think of it like this. It's like cutting off a convoy truck at a toll booth. You don't need to stop the whole convoy. You just need to block one lane long enough to create chaos everywhere else. Tehran was betting the Americans would hesitate, would wait for confirmation, would run through the rules of engagement checklist while the fast boats kept closing. And in that hesitation, that precious bureaucratic pause, the window would open. Solid bet. Except for one thing. The Americans had been watching this plan come together for 6 days. The USS Abraham Lincoln didn't wake up when the radar contacts appeared at 0347. It woke up at 1923 the previous evening, when a P-8A Poseidon from VP-47, the Golden Swordsman out of NAS Whidbey Island, currently operating from Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, picked up anomalous radio traffic on a frequency the IRGCN uses for fast boat coordination drills. Except this wasn't a drill frequency. This was operational net. By 2100, 5th Fleet Headquarters in Manama had a preliminary assessment. By 2200, USS Abraham Lincoln's strike group was already quietly reconfiguring. The USS Leyte Gulf, a Ticonderoga-class cruiser with 122 vertical launch cells and one of the most advanced radar systems in the world, repositioned 14 nautical miles northwest of the carrier, directly between Lincoln and the projected threat axis. The USS Gonzales, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, moved to a picket position 22 miles out. her AN/SPY 1D radar painting a picture of everything within 200 nautical miles in full 3D resolution. That was the visible move. The one Iranian satellites and watchers in Bandar Abbas could track if they were paying attention. The invisible move happened at 2,247. Two FA-18F Super Hornets from VFA-213, the Black Lions, launched off Lincoln's waste catapults with no exterior lighting, no radio chatter, running on a frequency-hopped encrypted data link invisible to Iranian listening posts. They flew a low-level ingress route toward the Strait of Hormuz and settled into a holding pattern at 22,000 feet, invisible on civilian radar. If you're new to the channel and you want to understand why America wins these standoffs every single time, hit subscribe. We break down the systems, the tactics, and the math that makes the U.S. Navy the most dominant force on any ocean on Earth. By 100, the trap was set. Lincoln's crew wasn't scrambling. They were ready. The show was already over before the IRGCN fast boats left port. The Cat 0312, 35 minutes before the radar contacts appeared, the P-8A Poseidon that had been orbiting the northern Gulf at 22,000 feet picked up engine signatures consistent with PACAP-class fast attack craft departing Bandar Abbas's Revolutionary Guard Pier complex. The P-8 crew didn't broadcast on open channels. They pushed a compressed data packet to 5th Fleet, to Lincoln's Combat Direction Center, and to the Leyte Gulf simultaneously. The message took 0.4 seconds to travel. By 0313, every American commander in the theater knew exactly what was coming, from where, and at what speed. Do the math. 7 fast boats, 42 knots, departing at 0312, bearing toward Lincoln's last known position. Time to weapons range, 48 minutes. That means the window opens at approximately 400. The 22-minute satellite gap the Iranians had planned around runs from 0347 to 0409. They timed it perfectly. The problem is you can plan around a satellite gap. You cannot plan around an E-2D advanced Hawkeye that's already airborne and looking down at you from 25,000 feet with a rotating radar dome that sees everything inside a 350-mile bubble. Lincoln had launched that Hawkeye at 23:15 the previous night. At 0318, the lead PACAP boat attempted its first evasion, a course change to 015, hugging the Iranian coastline to complicate radar tracking geometry. The Leyte Gulf's SPY-1D noted the maneuver, made the track update automatically, didn't break a sweat. At 0329, 2 of the 7 fast boats went to 50 knots, their maximum sprint speed, apparently hoping to outpace any intercept calculation and compress the Americans' response timeline. USS Gonzalez watched both of them accelerate. The destroyer's captain authorized weapons tight, ready to fire, waiting for authorization. At 0334, the IRGCN attempted their first electronic countermeasure, a burst of jamming on the X-band frequencies American fire control radars use. It lasted 4.3 seconds before the Gonzalez's electronic warfare suite identified the source, located it to within 200 meters, and flagged it for the strike package. The Super Hornets at altitude noted the target automatically. Every evasion, every counter, every trick. The Americans already had the answer. At 0339, the 2 Cena-class patrol boats holding at 40 kilometers began their weapons prep sequence. Signals intelligence detected the fire control radar activation, the specific electromagnetic signature of a C-704 targeting system coming online. This is the moment. This is what all of it was building toward. NSA Bahrain pushed the alert at 0340. Lincoln's captain had the call at 0341. He had exactly 6 minutes before those missiles could be in the air. Here's the variable nobody was fully ready for. At 0343, a 4th aerial contact appeared on the E-2D's scope, not from Bandar Abbas, from the northwest, bearing 310, climbing fast out of the noise floor near Keshem Island, where Iranian signals discipline had been perfect for 48 hours. It was a Shahed 136 variant, a loitering munition, a kamikaze drone, slower than a fighter but invisible to systems optimized for tracking fast movers. The IRGCN had added a 3rd layer to their plan. The fast boats were the distraction. The C-704s from the Sina-class boats were the primary strike. and this drone, launched from a concealed position on Kesham Island, was the backup. Pre-programmed with Lincoln's last satellite-confirmed position, flying a ballistic ingress profile designed to arrive 90 seconds after the missile impact. Hit the carrier with a missile, distract the damage control teams, then put a drone into the flight deck while everyone is fighting the first fire. For exactly one paragraph, let's be honest, that's a good plan. At 0344, Leyte Gulf's captain had 3 simultaneous threats inside his weapons engagement zone. The fast boats, the missile-capable patrol boats with active fire control radar, and now an inbound drone. 3 threats, 1 cruiser, 6 minutes. Except Lincoln had already anticipated exactly this. At 2247 the night before, when those 2 Super Hornets launched with no lights and no radio. One of them wasn't carrying AMRAAMs. It was carrying 4 AIM 9X Sidewinders and an AN/ASQ 228 ATFLIR targeting pod specifically optimized for slow, low-flying contacts, slow movers, drones. The Super Hornet pilot had been watching that drone since it left Kesham. At 0345, 5th Fleet authorized weapons free on a graduated response protocol. In plain English, every American asset in the engagement zone now had authority to engage. Here's what the IRGCN commander was seeing on his display at that moment, if his intelligence was good enough to see any of it at all. A USS Leyte Gulf, 14 miles northwest, has a firing solution on both Sina-class patrol boats. Her standard missile 2s are already in the vertical launch cells, pointing straight up, ready to arc downrange in under 3 seconds. Range to target, 38 kilometers. Time of flight, 19 seconds. USS Gonzales, 22 miles out, has radar tracks on all 7 fast boats and is holding a targeting solution on the lead element. Her 5-inch deck gun can put a round on target every 4 seconds. Her Harpoon missiles are on the rails. The 2 F/A 18Fs at altitude have firing solutions on the Sina-class boat's fire control radars. 1 AGM-88 HARM each, ready to ride the radar signal home the moment those C-704s go active for launch. The second Super Hornet has had the Shahed drone in his targeting pod for 22 minutes. He is waiting for one word. And underneath all of this, silent, invisible, completely unknown to the IRGCN, USS Scranton, a Los Angeles-class submarine that had been operating in the northern Gulf for 11 days, was holding station at 400 feet directly beneath the fast boat formation's projected track. Her captain had acoustic tracks on every vessel in the enemy formation. Had for 3 hours. The IRGCN commander had sent 7 fast boats, 2 missile boats, and a drone against a carrier strike group. He was looking at a cruiser, a destroyer, a submarine, 2 fighters at altitude, a surveillance aircraft, and 5,000 sailors on the most powerful warship ever built. The arithmetic of facing the most powerful navy on Earth is not complicated. It is just merciless. The contacts appear on Lincoln's radar, right on schedule. Leyte Gulf broadcasts on Channel 16. So the International Maritime Distress Frequency in Farsi and English. Unidentified vessels bearing 027. You are approaching a United States Navy warship. Alter course immediately, or you will be fired upon. The lead PACAP doesn't alter course. The 2 Sina-class boats go weapons hot. C-704 targeting radars lock onto Lincoln. Active, painting, ready. The HARM launches. You don't see it leave the Super Hornet. 1 second, it's not there. Then it's a white line across the sky at Mach 2, riding the radar beam straight back to its source. The first Sina-class boat's targeting radar goes dark 11 seconds later. The second, HARM, is already in the air. No radar. No C-704. Launch. No missile strike. Silence on the IRGCN command net. The Super Hornet pilot hunting the Shahed drone gets a single word over his encrypted data link, Fox. 1 AIM-9X. E1 drone. 1 explosion over the northern Gulf that nobody on the ground sees because it happens at 800 feet over open water in total darkness. The 7 fast boats hold their formation for exactly 47 seconds after the HARMs hit. Then the lead boat breaks. Hard right. 50 knots heading back toward Iranian waters. The remaining 6 follow. USS Gonzales tracks every one of them, all the way back to Bandar Abbas. On Lincoln's Bridge, the captain picks up the 1MC, the ship-wide intercom. His voice is steady, flat. The voice of a man who trained for this for 28 years. 2 words: secure, GCCS. Go back to normal, stand down the tactical displays. It's over. Below decks, in berthing compartments and mess halls, 4,800 sailors who never knew any of it happened are asleep, or eating, or watching movies on their laptops. Because that's what American carrier operations look like when they work the way they're supposed to. The 200 who knew what was happening. The radar operators, the tactical action officers, the fighter pilots at altitude, the submarine crew at depth. They log it, debrief it, and go back to work. By 0600, the incident is in front of 5th Fleet's commander, CENTCOM, and the National Security Council. By 900, the State Department issues a brief, carefully worded statement about an unsafe and unprofessional interaction with IRGC vessels in international waters. Diplomatic language for something that came within 6 minutes of being a shooting war. What Tehran learned that night, if they're honest enough to learn it, is that the 22-minute satellite gap they built their plan around was irrelevant. Because the United States Navy doesn't need satellites to see you. It has submarines listening to your engines, P-8s watching you from the stratosphere, E-2s painting the entire theater in 3 dimensions, and fighter pilots who've been waiting in the dark for hours before you even decided to move. The IRGC fast boats that turned around at 0352 didn't do so because they were scared. They did so because every single layer of their plan had been neutralized before a single Iranian weapon was fired. The missile boats had no radar. The drone was gone. And 7 fast attack craft facing a Los Angeles-class submarine and a fully armed destroyer in the dark is not a fight. It's arithmetic. The USS Abraham Lincoln continued her deployment. Flight operations resumed at 0630. FA-18S thundered off the catapults into a Gulf sunrise. Business as usual. 97,000 tons, 5,000 sailors, 90 aircraft, moving through water that some nations still foolishly believe they control. They don't. No one who challenges the United States Navy in these waters gets to keep the plan they showed up with. That's not arrogance. That's an 80-year operational record, written in steel and jet fuel and the cold professionalism of people who train every single day to be exactly this good. If you like this breakdown, you're going to want to watch our video on how the U.S. Navy submarine force quietly dominates every ocean on Earth, without anyone ever knowing they're there. See you there.